dying, he would usually contrive another deadly thrust. "They don't seem to know when they ought to die, sir," says a Russian soldier in Lermonov's Caucasian Tales. "Indeed, sir, these villains can hardly ever be killed. They are a people without the slightest idea of propriety." Shamil's struggle was part, in fact, of a longer ghazwat, as they called the jihad, that started, in fact, in the time of Catherine the Great, who invaded the Caucasus and was opposed by the forces of Sheikh Mansour. The fight was taken up by Qazi Mullah, who was a friend of Shamil. But Qazi Mullah's rebellion was ill-timed and short-lived. It all ended in the siege of the fortified mountain village of Rimri. 500 Marids against 10,000 Russians. Only 2 Marids escaped death, and one of them was Shamil. But it was in this escape that his legend was really born. And this is the account of one Russian soldier. "It was dark. By the light of the burning thatch, we saw a man standing in the doorway of Saklia, which stood on raised ground, or rather above us. This man, who was very tall and powerfully built, stood quite still, as if giving us time to take aim. Then suddenly, with the spring of a wild beast, he leapt clean over the heads of the very line of soldiers about to fire on him, and landing behind them, whirling his sword in his left hand, he cut down 3 of them, but was bayoneted by the 4th, the steel plunging deep into his chest. His face still extraordinary in its immobility. He seized the bayonet, pulled it out of his own flesh, and cut down the man, and with another superhuman leap, cleared the wall and vanished into the darkness. We were left absolutely dumbfounded. The whole business had taken perhaps a minute and a half. 2 things have always shocked me about many Muslims since I myself started to practice Islam. The first is how a Muslim could be illiterate when the first word revealed was Iqra, read. The second was how physically feeble and unfit so many Muslims are. I recall one of my early trips up north, meaning up north to the north of England, as a new Muslim, and being shocked when I heard that Muslim boys didn't play rugby because their parents considered it too rough. There is a truth in the saying that the British Empire was founded on the playing fields of its public schools. Physical toughness, strength, absence of luxurious living are virtues that should be present in every Muslim. The Prophet ﷺ said, "The strong believer is better and more beloved to Allah than the weak believer, while there is good in both." And Muslim collected it in his Sahih. Sheikh Salih al-Fawzan had the following to say about physical strength and its relation to our belief and actions. "The believer who is strong in his belief, body and actions is better than the weak believer, the one who has weak belief or a weak body or weak actions. That is because the strong believer is productive and accomplishes things for the Muslims, and thus they benefit from his physical strength, actions and strong belief. So this hadith is an encouragement to have strength, as Islam is the religion of strength, the religion of honor, the religion of prestige. So the strength that is sought from us in Islam is strength in belief and its tenets, as well as strength in our actions and our bodies, because all of this brings forth good things for the Muslims. The believer who has strong belief is more likely to be fit and in shape. This is because he understands the importance of striving and staying in shape in preparation for it, while the weak believer may easily get fat and out of shape from his overeating and laziness. Physical strength is a direct result of strength in belief. It is not to belittle the many excellent qualities of Imam Shamil, sure of himself, but without the physical stature to match it. In fact, it's said that Imam Shamil, as a child, was very, very sickly. In fact, originally he was called Ali, but it was the custom in that place that if a person or a child was sickly and ill, they sometimes thought it was a product of the evil eye. So they would change his name as a type of idea to try and divert the evil eye. I'm not saying that one should do that. That's what they used to do. So his name was changed. It was originally Ali and it was changed to Shamil. So he was a very sickly boy. But in fact, although he wasn't very physically strong when he was young, he was very, very self-assured, very proud. There's a story that his father used to drink alcohol. His father used to drink alcohol. And Shamil was so upset at the disgrace of his father being someone who drank alcohol that he told his father that if you do not stop, I will stab myself to death. And his father knew that he was capable of doing that because he was not someone who made a threat and didn't carry it through. And because he loved his son, he gave up drinking alcohol. So anyway, he was very sure of himself. You could say very self-assured, cocky as some people call it. And some young boys from his village took a dislike to this. So they gathered together, and what did they do? They stabbed him in the stomach. So a group of boys, they surrounded Shamil and stabbed him in the stomach and left him for dead. Returning to consciousness, Shamil's first instinct was to hide from both taunts and sympathy. He dragged himself to the mountains and he bound up his wounds and obtained these herbal remedies for which the mountain men were famous. And they used this system to treat wounds with herbs and stuff like that. Anyway, he talks about these, and also use this. They have this ant in the mountains that they have these pincers, and they use that as a type of stitches. So they let the ant bite you, it brings the wound together, and then they bite off. They twist off the ant and leave its head to act as stitches. And this is actually how the wounds would be fixed. So the stoical young Shamil hid his wounds and his humiliation and did not return to Himri, his village, until he was not only recovered but toughened by an implacable self-imposed regime of physical culture. From that moment on, he forced himself to feats of endurance, changing himself into a lean, iron-hard athlete. It reminds us of the saying here of the Prophet ﷺ that's been attributed to the Prophet: teach your children swimming, archery and horse riding. Shamil could outfight, outride, outswim and outrun all the rest of the mountain people. Just as they had their own methods for curing wounds, so they had their jealously guarded methods of training and hardening both themselves and their horses. To be able to cover the enormous distances and endure the violent changes of climate, their raiding tactics and the country demanded. And likewise, these Caucasian braves tried themselves and trained themselves to have extraordinary stamina. They ate sparingly. I just want to mention as a side point, I've been asked actually a couple of times in the last month about the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, where everyone knows this. When you eat a third of your stomach for food, a third for water, and leave a third for air. And this has been repeated so often that people actually think that it's sunnah to eat for a third of your stomach, and a third for liquid and a third for air. But this is actually only the last part of the hadith. The first part of the hadith actually says that enough for the son of Adam is a few morsels to keep his back straight. That's the first part of the hadith.